This is Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque, continuing 16 years on air and online, helping you succeed in buying, selling, and investing in property. The best real estate strategies out there just for you.
Welcome to Real Estate This Week. Hi again, I'm Stephen Gasque, and I'm so glad you're here as we talk about how to nail it every time, no matter what kind of real estate you want to do. Just you, me, and the best real estate guests in the country. Today, great information is straight ahead about getting money for your down payment. Thousands of dollars, and possibly tens of thousands of dollars. Is it real? Yes. Is it legit? Yes. And it's happening in all 50 states. It's called down payment assistance, and its goal is to help you get into a home of your own. We'll tell you all about it right now. Joining us is Rob Crane, the CEO of Down Payment Resource in Atlanta, and their entire mission is to connect eligible home buyers with down payment assistance programs all across America. Rob, welcome to Real Estate This Week.
Thank you, Stephen. It's always great to be with you.
I am so glad you're here. And so, Rob, first of all, let's tell everybody about down payment assistance, because I think it's fair to say, even though it's a huge help for anyone buying a house, a lot of people just don't know about it. So, Rob, what is down payment assistance?
Well, Stephen, you make a very great point, and kind of our biggest part of our mission all these years has been to simply raise awareness so that people do know about it. And in fact, our vision is that we'll get to a point where anybody who aspires to home ownership will know that, first of all, know that there's such a thing as down payment assistance, but also how to find it. So down payment assistance comes in different forms, but basically it's what it sounds like. It's funds to help people buy homes. We all know that coming up with a down payment is one of the biggest obstacles to home ownership. So this is a way to help people with that. And it primarily does help with down payments, but it can help pay closing costs. And different programs have different rules about what you can use the money for. So there's some programs, for example, that you could apply some of the money towards your private mortgage insurance if it's required. So there are a lot of different ways to use it. It just depends on the program, and there are a lot of programs.
Absolutely. And now let's get some of the myths out of the way so that people get good information and they can toss out the bad information. So, Rob, first of all, a lot of people listening to this are probably thinking, oh, well, you know what? That's just for low-income people, and that's just for first-time home buyers, and I'm neither one of those. Tell that person the truth.
Yeah, so the truth is it's not just low-income households. The maximum household incomes, because that's one of the key rules, eligibility rules of am I qualified for this program? What's the maximum household income? It's usually adjusted by household size. So if you have a household of 6, you can have a higher income than if you're a household of 1. And it also adjusts based on area median income. So if you live in a sort of a average market where homes aren't as expensive and incomes aren't as high, you'll have one set of income limits. But if you're in a high cost area, coastal Southern California, for example, I don't know where you can get much higher cost, but because homes are more expensive, incomes are higher, the household income limits there are going to be higher than they are in Oklahoma City.
Interesting. And so people can make a good amount of money. So let's ballpark it, Rob. Can I make over $100,000 a year and still get down payment assistance?
In many locations, you can. I can't say yes just across the board everywhere in the U.S., but people would be surprised when they see the income limits. And again, they also vary not only on location, but on what program we're looking at. So different programs have different limits like that. But six figures is not unheard of by any means.
Okay, now let's address the other myth, Rob, that it's just for first-time home buyers. Now, I know some of the programs are, but plenty are not.
That's right, Stephen. About 39% of the programs in our database have no first-time home buyer requirement. And I think it's also important for your listeners to understand what is the definition of first-time home buyer. Because, when you hear that term, you immediately and naturally would think, oh, well, if I ever owned a home, I guess I'm not eligible. The definition that they use for most of these programs is you haven't owned a home in the last 3 years. So you could have owned a home in the past more than 3 years ago, but for the purposes of these programs, if it's been 3 years or more, you're a first-time home buyer. So that's not going to prevent you from potentially qualifying for any program. But again, 39% of the programs out there don't have any first-time home buyer requirement.
Excellent. And Rob, I really want to get into the different types of down payment assistance programs, but before we do, let me ask you a question that many listeners are asking right now. Why? Why do these programs exist, especially for people who make more than six figures, and especially for people who already have owned a home? Why are they out there?
Well, they're out there, first of all, because there's a need. Let's face it, we have an affordability crisis in this country, and home ownership is such an important part of the fabric of a community. And so it's also important in terms of economic development. So because homeownership does so much to help people and help communities, it's something that that the government, both local and state and federal governments, feel like it's an important thing to support. So over the years, they've come up with these programs, and it's there to help people become homeowners.
Excellent. And Rob, another question now that many people are wondering. How much money can I get? I mean, if it's a couple of grand, many people would just say, well, I'll pass. That's too much work for $2,000. But we both know it's a lot more than that.
It is. And it's more for two reasons. Number one, it's hard to calculate kind of and say what's the average, but we have a interesting methodology, and we can sort of say what's the most commonly found amount of money across the country. And whenever we've done those studies, it always comes out to about $17,000. So it doesn't mean every program is going to get you $17,000, but that's one of the most commonly found amounts. It's right in that range. So that's substantial. But
that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, that can make a big difference. But also, something that a lot of people don't know about is that some of these programs can be combined or stacked or layered, however you want to describe it. But sometimes you can qualify for more than one program, and that could be that much more money to help you.
Oh, that's incredible. And Rob, let's just look back at your experience here. I know this is going to be just a one-off, but in all the years you've been helping people find down payment assistance programs, what is the biggest amount you have ever heard a single buyer qualifying for?
I would say the biggest amount would probably be around $200,000. Now, and I have to be very careful saying that, because I don't want to set expectations that the first time you look to see if you're eligible for a program, that $200,000 is going to pop up. But yeah, that's the largest that I can think of seeing.
Oh, Rob, that is huge. And now let's get into the different types of programs, because I know that they range all the way from just giving you money that you never have to pay back to having to pay it back at some point. So let's begin with what you would call the grants, the money you don't have to repay. How about that, Rob?
Yeah, free money. Who can beat that? So you're right. There certain number of programs are grants. There's no repayment. When you qualify and you go to close on your home purchase, that money is at the table. It goes into helping acquire the home, and that's it. There are no liens. There's nothing. There's just it's just there for you. It's a gift.
Excellent. And Rob, another type of down payment assistance program says, yes, we'll give you the money if you stay there a certain number of years. Tell us about that.
That's right. So some programs are, we would call those forgivable programs. So, yes, there's a lien filed when you get the money, but the most commonly found example of that would be 5 years. If you stay in the house 5 years, that debt is forgiven. And a lot of times that debt may slowly burn off each year. So 5 years, 100% is waived. But the first year, maybe 20% is forgiven. Then the next year, another 20 until you get to 100% if you're there 5 years.
And in an appreciating market, we have to also mention the other type of down payment assistance in which they say, don't even worry about it. Don't even think about it until you sell the house someday. Then you pay it back. And by then, chances are you've accumulated a whole bunch of equity.
That's right. So when I was saying that grants are free money, I would call these programs the free use of money. So yes, you do pay it back, but as you point out, you build equity all the time that you're there. You sell that home, you pay off the original down payment assistance, and you keep all the equity you built. So again, that's very good because you're able to get into a home sooner, and you're able to take advantage of the natural appreciation that home accumulates. And you're not making, for that type of program, you're not making monthly payments. A lot of those do not even charge interest. So that's why I say it could be considered free use of money.
I see. And Rob, earlier you mentioned what you can use the money for. So let's talk about that, because we should tell people that in most cases they never even touch the money. It goes right from the lender to the title company. You don't really have possession of it. But there are rules about what you can and you cannot apply that money towards. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so there are a lot of different possibilities, but you can always be sure that it's going to cover your closing cost and your down payment, or that you have, you can apply it to any of those things. But again, as I was mentioning earlier, another example is paying for your private mortgage insurance or those kind of premiums, or your prepaid expenses at closing. So prepaid expenses would be things like prorating property taxes, homeowners insurance, things like that. There are starting to be a few programs, not a lot, but with the recent changes in real estate commission rules, you may have a situation where the seller is not going to pay the buyer's agent's commission. So again, it's not a lot of programs yet, but there are some programs that if you need to pay the agent that helped you find the home and helped you negotiate the home and all the details that go along with the transaction, that could potentially be paid for by one of these programs. Again, just depending on the program.
So Rob, it's clear that these programs are adapting with the market. When things change, the programs change too, to make sure more people can be helped.
That's right. Yeah, they are adaptable. They're We're tracking programs administered by a little over 1,500 different agencies. These agencies are mostly state housing finance agencies, local housing finance agencies, municipalities, and nonprofits. And so, it's a like everything else out there. It's a competitive world. Uh, they have a mission to help people become homeowners, so they are constantly adapting to market conditions.
And Rob, let's get to the final question. How do I find a qualified down payment assistance program in my area? I mean, I don't imagine you walk right into a bank and say, hey, I'd like a loan with down payment assistance. How does it work?
Well, to that point, I would say whenever you do talk to a bank or an independent mortgage banker, mortgage broker, any sort of mortgage lender, I would always ask and just simply say, do you participate in any down payment assistance programs? But you're right. If you just randomly walk into a bank, who knows whether they do or not. So better to arm yourself in advance, and you don't have to get in the car and drive to a bank. You sit down at your laptop, and we have a free widget on our site. Our site is downpaymentresource.com. It's like I said, it's free. We don't charge anything. We don't spam you. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, get helpful tips, you could do that. But we're not selling names, lists of names, or anything like that. So that's an easy resource. But if you want to do homework in a different way, you can start doing searches. You can type into your search bar, down payment assistance near me would be a start. And that should start popping up programs and local agencies that have these programs. And then you can go to their sites and research to see what they have.
Oh, that's great. That is great. And we should tell people also, Rob, and this is kind of sad, but it's true, that if you go to a down payment assistance office to talk to them, to see if you qualify, chances are there will not be a line. Because a good friend of mine used to volunteer at his area's down payment assistance office. And every weekend he was there both days, and no one ever came in. People just don't know about these programs. And you and I think we'd both like to change that.
Absolutely. We'd love to change that. And you're right. It's I think one of the best kept secrets out there. And that is sad that more people aren't taking advantage of it. We've done all kinds of research. I won't bore you with a bunch of data, but we've done all kinds of research to see, how many people are eligible for down payment assistance versus how many people actually use it. And there's a big gap, and that just underscores your point that too many people don't know about it. So, time to take advantage of it. And I will say that, today on some of the big real estate search sites, which is usually where people start their home search, especially if they're first-time home buyers, they may be 6, 12, 18 months before they think they're ready to buy, but they're starting to browse, look at homes. They're planning, they're aspiring to home ownership. And so a lot of these sites now, we power a down payment assistance module so that when they're looking at homes, if there are programs available for that specific property, it will tell you that. It'll tell you, hey, there might be 5 programs, 8 programs, 10 programs to help you buy this home. And so that's a great way, number one, to start learning about it. And number two, to find out, well, if I buy this home, is there money available, and am I eligible for any of that money? And so the interesting thing we found is that if you put out the message that down payment help is available, people will engage. And just a couple of months ago, one of those big real estate search sites put out a blog and celebrated that in the first 3 years of providing this information to their site visitors, more than 5 million unique consumers visiting that website filled out the eligibility form. In the first year, it was just a little over 1 million. And out of that million, 93% were connected with at least one program.
Wow.
So, for a few minutes to answer 5, 6, 7 questions online in the comfort of your home, why not? Why, that could be some of the best, few minutes, the best time you've ever spent.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, I really want to thank you for being on the show today because, when you think of someone who wants to buy a house, and if they're serious, they'll start saving, and saving. And then if they're fortunate, they might be able to get some money from mom and dad to help purchase the house. But so many of them just don't know that tens of thousands of dollars is available from down payment assistance. And I want to thank you for telling everyone about it and for all you do to help people get into homes of their own. Thank you, Rob.
Well, thank you, Stephen. You're certainly welcome, and thank you for spreading the word, and thank you for informing your listeners about these resources, because that's we certainly don't have a big enough megaphone to do it by ourselves. So you're providing a very, very important service to get the word out there.
And it is an honor. Rob Crane, the CEO of Down Payment Resource in Atlanta, which connects eligible home buyers with down payment assistance programs all across America.
You're listening to Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque.
And now, it's time for Beyond the Basics, a special segment here on Real Estate This Week, in which we bring your real estate knowledge to the next level. And now, what to do if someone else gets the house you want. We all know it's a competitive market out there, and quite often, a good house at a good price generates multiple offers, and sometimes bidding wars. But if there are 5 different offers, the seller can only pick one. So what can you do if your offer is not the one that wins? Well, obviously, you could just shrug and move on, start your search all over again, and hopefully find a house. But there's another way, in which even though your offer was not accepted, you don't give up on that house. You stick with it and register your offer, the one that lost, as a backup offer. A backup offer waits in the wings while the first offer, the one that was accepted, goes through the paces: the home inspection, the appraisal, and the buyer's financing. You see, even after the winning offer is accepted, there are still a lot of moving parts involved in a successful home sale. And a backup offer is there just in case the first one falls apart. It doesn't happen a lot, but it certainly does happen. Possibly, the buyer and the seller will disagree on how to handle the home inspection, or the house won't appraise, and the buyer will not come up with the extra cash, and the seller will not drop the price. Or, once the buyer's mortgage application goes to underwriting, the lender will find something there that disqualifies that buyer from getting the home loan. Things happen, and sometimes those things can cause the initial offer to fail. And so if you're standing by with a backup offer, one that's been registered with the listing agent, chances are they'll come to you and say the first offer fell apart. So if you're still interested, we will work with you. Just in the past year, talking to real estate agents every week, I've heard about a half dozen stories about the backup offer that becomes the full ratified contract, and that buyer gets the house. So, if you bid on a home and your offer is not accepted, talk to your agent and ask them whether a backup offer is a good idea in your market. And if so, go for it. Because after all, you never know. Next time on Real Estate This Week, selling your house. We'll share cutting-edge strategies about how to make buyers fall in love with your house. So much love, they'll make a big offer. Selling Your House is next on Real Estate This Week. And until then, I'm Stephen Gasque, and thank you for listening.
A brand new episode of Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque drops every Thursday, everywhere. And you're invited to listen, subscribe, and follow us. Just look for Real Estate This Week with Stephen Gasque. The best real estate strategies out there, just for you.